Welcome to Rico and Hook, the #1 weekly sports talk show here on Wayne Hills TV. It's our first episode of the new year, and we have a lot to talk about.
Big things happened at the close of 2022. Hook and I will give you news from the MLB and the NFL, along with sports predictions and news from across the world of sports. I'm Rico.
And I got a haircut, and this is Rico and Hook. So to kick off our show, a lot has happened around at the close of 2022 in Major League Baseball. First, notably, Carlos Correa signed with the Giants, then he failed the physical, then he signed with the Mets, and now he might be failing the physical again. A lot's going on with that contract dispute right now, so what do you think about Correa and the Mets right now?
It seems like a classic Mets situation, as they always have problems with their players, even though it would be a normal Yankee situation. Someone... who knows what he's taking that there would be a problem with the physical. I don't know what it could be. Apparently it was like a past medical issue, something like that, but who knows what it could be. I don't know. What do you think why would someone even fail a physical like that?
I mean, you're right. It's again, it feels like we're just going off on the Mets right now, but I mean, look at the guy that they just lost. Jacob deGrom has an injury history, and now Carlos Correa, they're perfectly fine with signing a guy who supposedly has a bit of a history with injuries, and right now it seems the rumor is that Steve Cohen's trying to get a deal done that may or may not go against the MLBPA's, the Player Association's kind of rules and regulations for contracts. So they're supposedly trying to get that cleared before they can sign the contract, which is definitely an interesting thing. And speaking on Jacob deGrom, who I mentioned before, he's now with the Texas Rangers, and the Texas Rangers have been doing a great job this offseason. I mean, they re-signed Martin Perez. They have a great rotation with deGrom, and now they signed from the Red Sox Nate Eovaldi. So, I mean, how do you feel about this revamped rotation? We saw a lot of moves last year's offseason and now this offseason. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, start with the last season's offseason with Marcus Semien and Corey Seager playing in the infield. Obviously, they both really struggled this past year, which was very surprising. I thought that they would just kick off the team. I mean, it seems like the Rangers have always been struggling in the past couple of years. Like, couldn't find something where their players could click. I think it has something to do like internally. But I think the rotation, obviously, Jacob deGrom, best pitcher in the league, in my opinion, especially over the last couple of years, despite injury. But I think the Rangers are definitely going to be competitive this year.
I mean, they're trying to look like, their past selves. I mean, they got Semien and Seager, as you said. They're trying to, get them to be the next Adrian Beltre, Elvis Andrus kind of in that infield. And now signing Jacob deGrom, it feels like they're trying to, revitalize that 2010s type of lineup. They signed their modern-day version of Cole Hamels here. I mean, they have their ace. They have a great middle infield. And right now they look like they're just trying to get everything together before the season starts, and they can end up being a really talented team. And, I mean, speaking of talent, we saw Aaron Judge with his 62 home runs, signed a huge deal, $40 million a year for 9 years. We talked about it before. And at his press conference, owner Hal Steinbrenner announced that he would be the 16th captain of this Yankees team. I mean, how do you feel about that?
Obviously, it's a big thing for the Yankees, us both big Yankee fans. Seems like Derek Jeter was a little bit too excited at that press conference. I mean, seems like he was just all over Aaron Judge. Obviously, Derek Jeter being the last captain for almost most of his entire career. Obviously, only played with the Yankees. That's what Aaron Judge is probably looking to do with the Yankees, stay here for his whole entire career, make a lot of money, obviously, taking a lot of the money away from other players that the Yankees could have signed in the offseason. But I really do think it's a good thing for Aaron Judge, and he'll definitely be a good leader, and hopefully they can make it further in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, and Aaron Judge is a natural-born leader. This past season and a half, it's really been him and Anthony Rizzo have been just the top guys leading their team, motivating their guys in the dugout there. So, obviously, him being the captain, it just, lets everybody know that he is the top guy. He's the guy to look to. And, 62 home runs is no easy feat. And he is really this modern day's version of Derek Jeter so far. And, Aaron Judge was in that MVP race. He ended up winning it. The guy that was in a very close second was Shohei Ohtani, signed the biggest arbitration-avoiding deal earlier on in this offseason for $30 million. And now it looks like he could be leaving the Angels in free agency next year. If you had to take your guess, where do you think Ohtani's going to land?
I think he is going to end up in somewhere in the AL, one of these powerhouse teams. Obviously, I want the Yankees to sign him.
It's not going to happen.
I don't think we have enough money for him, or he would even want to come to New York. The Mets, Steve Cohen's going to make a push for him no matter what. He's going to give an attempt to give him a good deal. I don't want to keep throwing out Yankees rivals, but Boston. I think Boston could actually make a push at Shohei Ohtani. They haven't made a big splash in free agency in a couple of years now, so I think that's going to be the biggest option.
Yeah, I mean, talking about Boston, they lost so many players. They lost Bogarts, and now they have Devers also going to free agency. So, they definitely have the money, but Devers, I think, right now is the main thing to worry about. But for Ohtani, right now, I hate to say it, but the number one most likely destination is the Los Angeles Dodgers, and I hate to say it because they have so much talent around them. It looks like they're trying to buy a championship, but when you have so much money in such a huge market, and the Dodgers just have so much money to throw out, and Ohtani is one of the best players of this generation, if not the best player of this generation. So I wouldn't be surprised if he lands there. And then we talked about rich owners. We talked about Hal Steinbrenner earlier on. His kind of owner rival across in New York is Steve Cohen. How do these two owners really compare, Hal Steinbrenner and Steve Cohen?
Hal Steinbrenner wasn't like George Steinbrenner, where he was aggressive in free agency, wanting to get all the big name players, and that's what obvious Yankee fans, especially now, that's all we want them to do is sign the big names. Who cares about the money part? Don't worry about it. Sign everybody you want, win a World Series. But it seems like Steve Cohen has taken over that reins in New York and is now just signing whoever he wants to sign, pretty much. I don't know. What do you think? I think Hal needs to improve as an owner overall and just make those big splashes in free agency.
You said it. There was this whole kind of story that, George Steinbrenner, if he wanted a player in free agency, he got him. No questions asked. But, Hal Steinbrenner, he is a little bit more cautious with his money. It definitely comes to, does he want to spend big to have guys maybe not pan out? But, like you said before, Steve Cohen doesn't care. He spent about almost $1 billion in payroll this next season, and he doesn't care. That's like a tenth of his current net worth right now. Steve Cohen will just send as much money as possible to make his team better, and that's something that we really saw with George Steinbrenner when he was the owner of the Yankees.
Yeah, and I think that just about does it for this segment. Don't go anywhere. We have our next segment on the NFL season, and then there is also abundance of news coming up, and then we'll bring it to you when we come back. Welcome back. Next up, the NFL season is coming to a close, and a lot has happened this last week. First off, my Giants clinched a playoff berth for the first time since 2016. Obviously, I don't like to bring it up, but it's the infamous boat picture that happened in 2016, right before we went to the playoffs, and ended up getting blown out by the Packers. So your Jets, obviously, eliminated. What? When was the last time you guys were in the playoffs?
2011.
Oh, how old were you in 2011?
I was 5 years old.
Oh, and you guys have been obviously struggling at like the quarterback position. Is that what you blame your season on mostly?
I think it's just an all-around system type of thing. Not just the quarterback.
No, I don't agree. I think it's. Zach Wilson. Obviously, everybody knows about Zach Wilson, what he's done in the past.
Yeah, we don't have to
Mike
bring
White.
that up.
How's Mike White's ribs? Oh,
Ooh.
Mike White's out for the season too. Obviously, he did play last week, but you guys did lose your playoff hopes. And I didn't want to bring up your left tackle, Mekhi Becton, but he's your right tackle because he got moved.
Oh, because
he struggled too much.
Oh, yeah.
And
well,
I don't want to make you leave the segment right now because obviously we just started our NFL segment, but I'm gonna bring up Mark Sanchez in the butt fumble.
You know what this is? The butt fumble. No. That's it. You
don't.
Do not bring up the butt fumble on Rico and Hook. That is too much. That's too much. I quit.
You gotta come back.
I'll come back.
All right, the segment's still going, so I'm waiting for you to come back. So,
I'll come back.
You want to start talking about the Eagles now?
Yeah.
All right, let's go. So, Eagles lost 2 in a row. Jalen Hurts hurt the past 2 weeks. I really hope the Eagles lose their number 1 spot, but unfortunately that goes right back to the Cowboys. You think the Eagles are going to secure the number 1 spot and beat the Giants this week?
Yeah, they're looking like the prime New York Jets right now. I think they can definitely take one, keep that number 1 spot right now.
Before you keep going, the Jets never had a prime, so you can...
we're still on this. I can walk back off the set.
Yeah, maybe we can just make it a Rico show. But just to continue about the Eagles with their recent struggles now, obviously their injuries trying to add up towards the end of the year. Are you still worried about the Jets? Is that why you're just laughing?
Yeah, it's still in my mind.
It hurts a little bit.
It does hurt.
I just think it's funny that you care about the Jets so much. I think you should just change teams.
All right, so back to the Eagles. All right, so I mean, Jalen Hurts obviously has been out the last 2 games. We saw Gardner Minshew doing an okay job. He could not lead them to a win so far. And, just moving away from the Jets entirely. They wear green. It's making me think about the Jets. Moving on to a team that doesn't wear green that won't upset me. Mike Evans, who did an amazing job, put up 49 fantasy points in his last game. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. His 9th season with over 1,000+ receiving yards. I mean, he's just an absolute offensive weapon. How do you feel about this guy this season?
I mean, outside of the quarterback position over the last 10 years or so, he had to be the most consistent player in the league, and I think he's very underrated when it comes to just consistent play. And he also doesn't he also catches touchdowns a lot. I mean, he catches, 10+ touchdowns a year, it seems like. He's a very good red zone target, especially now. Tom Brady does like his big receivers. He had Randy Moss back when he won all those Super Bowls. So I think just Mike Evans, he deserves more credit at his position.
Yeah, and like I said before, he did win me the fantasy championship with his 48 points in that last one. I mean, I was just so hyped. I was down by 20 points with just 2 players left, him and my kicker, Evan McPherson. Obviously, we know what happened in the Bengals game, unfortunately. But, I mean, Mike Evans just took off with those 48 points. I mean, he was just all around amazing, had a bunch of yards in that game. He had 3 receiving touchdowns, I believe. How did you do in fantasy football this year?
I'm actually going to throw it back to our first episode on Rico and Hook when I did mention how I traded for Geno Smith, and he put me in the playoffs. And I did win that championship. So,
my boy.
Geno Smith definitely carried me into the championship, put up 17 points. It wasn't my biggest performer, but it was actually our lowest scoring game in my league all year. I was just happy to win the league. Everyone was pretty upset at me entire year because I kept making so many trades. But that's just how I win my league, to be honest with you.
Say what you want about Rico and Hook, but everybody knows we are champions. And that'll do it for our segment on the NFL. Don't go anywhere. Rico and I have brand new mock drafts on the upcoming NBA and NFL drafts. And we asked a few Wayne Hill students on their predictions for the football playoffs at both the professional and collegiate level. All of this and more when we come back. Welcome back. Next up, we're going to kick off our sports prediction segment in a bit of a different way than usual. Rico and I took the 2 sports that we are both knowledgeable on, that being the NFL for you and the NBA for me, and we've put together mock drafts for the upcoming drafts in our respective sports. So, we're going to start off with you.
So, obviously, first 5 picks have now been set that the playoffs are starting to go, obviously going to week 18 of the NFL season. A lot of the top, 15 or so picks are now set. So I do think that now that the Texans have the number 1 pick, I think Bryce Young is the best quarterback and then best player coming out of the draft. Obviously, really good talent at the quarterback position this year, but I think the Texans will take Bryce Young, the quarterback out of Alabama, first pick this year. Then number 2, I have the Bears taking outside linebacker Will Anderson from Alabama. I think he's the best defensive player coming out. He just seems like an absolute monster on the field. Obviously, Alabama didn't make it too far in the playoffs for college football, but they're still, I think, one of the best teams in the nation no matter what. And then I think the Seahawks picking number 3, I got C.J. Stroud, quarterback from Ohio State. Just lost the semifinal match, unfortunately, to Georgia. Obviously, a rough game. And then Cardinals at pick 4, I got Jalen Carter, defense tackle from Georgia. He's just a force to be reckoned with up the middle. He's a nose tackle. He's just a really good player overall. And then at number 5, the Colts quarterback struggles over the last couple of years. I hope they find their successor in Will Levis, the quarterback from Kentucky.
All around, some great guys. You've been hearing a lot about them throughout all the college football season. So next up, I have my mock draft on the NBA. So to start off, it looks like the Pistons, I kind of think that they're going to fall off a little bit to obtain that first pick, and I got them taking the center, Victor Wembanyama. He's 7'4". He's got an 8-foot wingspan out of France, the Metropolitans 92 team. All around just an amazing player. He's like a 7'4" Giannis Antetokounmpo, so I think he's going number 1 without a doubt. And another guy that's kind of consensus to go right after him, I have the Spurs going with the 2nd pick, and I have them taking Scoot Henderson. They've struggled with the point guard, shooting guard position a little bit. They have Trey Jones right now. They have Devin Vassell, but all around they really need that guy to run their offense, and Scoot Henderson can 100% do that. Piggybacking off of him, I got the Hornets going up next, and another combo guard, Nick Smith Jr. from Arkansas. He's looking like one of the best playmakers in all of college basketball right now. Amazing start to the season, one of the top prospects coming out of this year in high school. So I think he's going number 3 to the Hornets. Next up, I mean, the Rockets, I think, have definitely struggled a lot. I have them going with the 4th pick. I have them selecting Amen Thompson. He plays in Overtime's elite league right now, so kind of a lesser-known professional league, but Amen Thompson is just amazing. I mean, he's got the playmaking, he's got the slashing down, he's got the shooting, so I think 100% he can be a top 5 pick, and I have him going 4th. And then next up, to round it out with the 5th pick, I got the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're always in the top 5. I got to put them at 5 right now, and I got to give them Brandon Miller. He's a forward from Alabama, and he's just all around an amazing player. I mean, he's a putback boss. When he's getting those rebounds, he can just slam it right home, and all around just an amazing slasher and amazing inside scorer, and that's really a guy that the Oklahoma City Thunder really need. So, I mean, next up, we had a chance to ask a few Wayne Hills High School students who they think is winning the college football national championship. Let's see what they had to say.
I think TCU is going to win the national championship.
I think Georgia's going to win it, for sure.
I think Georgia's going to win.
We also asked the students who they think is winning the NFL MVP. Let's roll the clip.
The way he's playing right now, I think Patrick Mahomes is going to get it.
I think Saquon, the way he's been playing, second most rushing yards.
I think Jalen Hurts is going to be the MVP because of his rushing ability.
And finally, we asked them who they think is winning the Super Bowl this year. So let's roll it.
The Super Bowl, that's tough, but I think the Chiefs are going to win.
You know what? The Giants, they're just going to somehow win it.
I think the Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl. They've been playing good.
That'll do it for our sports prediction segment. Don't go anywhere. We'll close out the show with our segment on sports news from around the world when we come back. Welcome back. A lot is going on around the world of sports, so we got to talk about it. First of all, Penn State over Utah, 35-21 in the Rose Bowl. Did you watch that game, and what were your opinions on it?
I mean, I saw a couple quarters of it. I think I watched the first half. I mean, overall, Penn State was just doing a great job. I mean, they haven't won in the Rose Bowl. I believe it was since 1991. Was what I saw. So, I mean, a big win for them. Obviously, Penn State, historically a very good football school, and to see them finally get that bowl win, finally winning the Rose Bowl, one of the most well-known bowl games, I mean, it was just great to see. And, I mean, Penn State just has a lot of energy, both on their team and on their fans, and I was just really happy to see that they could succeed and win this game.
Yeah, and continuing about championships in college football, TCU and Georgia are heading to the national championship. Talking about the Georgia-Ohio State game, which was the semifinal match. Ohio State lost in a heartbreaker right when the ball dropped with the missed field goal. Were you watching that game? I mean, it was just crazy. Everyone was running around my house personally, but
I watched the fourth quarter of that game, which was obviously the best quarter with that field goal that went so far left. I mean, it just wasn't even close. And now, obviously, Georgia, one of, if not the best, consensus best teams in the league right now, playing against TCU. Obviously, TCU had a great season. I mean, kind of carried by Max Duggan. He didn't have a lot of options, but he just made it work. I personally thought he should have been the Heisman this year. And, I mean, I think it's going to be tough for him to carry this team to the national championship, especially against such a great Georgia team. But, I mean, I think he can possibly do it. But, I mean, Georgia's just so overpowered this year as they've been for the past few years. So, I mean, what do you think about this game?
I mean, I thought obviously the two semifinal matches were like really intense games. The teams, like, it seemed like they were they're all out there. So I think this one's going to be even better. TCU just seems like a really competitive team. And then the quarterback for Georgia, Stetson Bennett, obviously a couple jokes about him. He is a little on the older side. He's 25 years old. I mean, a couple of the NFL guys, Joe Burrow has been in a Super Bowl already, and Stetson Bennett's older than him now. I think it could be a problem in his NFL career, but for this game, I think the experience is going to matter.
Yeah, I mean, Stetson Bennett's the same age Lamar Jackson was when he won the MVP. So, I mean, he's definitely up there, but, you know, with age comes experience, and I think he's going to bring that.
Yeah, for sure. And then let's go over to your expertise down the NBA. Two of the biggest high-scoring games in a while. Luka Doncic with 60, and then Donovan Mitchell for the Cavs with 71. Obviously, this is everything that you know about. So what happened with Luka in his game?
So Luka put up quite possibly the most impressive performance in NBA history. Unfortunately, it was against my New York Knicks, and I watched the full game, all four quarters in overtime, and I hated every second of it because Luka Doncic is killing the league right now. He put up 60 points, 23 assists, and 10 rebounds. That is just 60 points, 23 rebounds, and 10 assists, but still, that is just unheard of. I mean, a guy like him is just so talented. Obviously, he's not the most athletic player in the league, but I mean, his shooting is amazing. His playmaking is amazing. His just all-around basketball IQ is what led him to such an amazing performance. And then moving on to one of the more athletic players in the league, Donovan Mitchell. He put up 50 points in the playoffs in the bubble back in 2020, so we know he's a high-scoring type of guy, but 71 points, now tied for the 8th highest scoring game in NBA history, and he was just one rebound away from getting a triple-double, which would have been the highest scoring triple-double in NBA history. He became the first player to drop 70 points and 10 assists in a game. And what I forgot to mention before with Luka is that he dropped the first 60-point, 20-assist triple-double. So, I mean, overall, these two put up just amazing nights, respectively, and it's great to see the way this NBA is going right now with so many high-scoring players. But right now, it's kind of getting dulled down a little bit. You know, Luka puts up an amazing night, and then Donovan Mitchell, not even a week later, 71 points. It's ridiculous to see. I mean, and then we're going off high numbers. Catch that segue right there. I mean, Cristiano Ronaldo officially signed with Al Nassr in Saudi Arabia. He's getting almost $200 million a year to play in Saudi Arabia. It was huge news when he was first rumored to possibly be going there, but how do you feel now? He's officially signed, and he's officially going to be the star of that team.
Yeah, I know he's been meeting his teammates in just the past couple days. A lot of his interviews have been coming up. It seems like he's really excited to play. Obviously, you want to see him in another World Cup. I'm not sure if he is going to play in the next one. I think it's very doubtful right now. Obviously, he's one of the greats of soccer that, like me and you, everyone knows who Cristiano Ronaldo is. So I think it's definitely great that he's going to play at least another 2 years of soccer. And hopefully we do see more of him after this contract does expire. But I think for our last segment, that just about does it. So thank you for tuning into this week's episode on Wayne Hills TV. I'm Rico.
And I got a haircut, and this is Rico and Hook.